Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel.
你们好。
Today we're going to talk about Chinese grammar. Now, we believe that Chinese grammar is one of the easiest things to learn, and I know you're thinking, what? Chinese grammar, easy? Chinese is so difficult, it's the most difficult language ever, blah, 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 blah. It's really not. And I used to think the same thing, and there's a big stereotype about Chinese being the most difficult language ever. But when you actually start learning it, you actually learn how simple it actually really is. And I need to stop saying actually. So let's talk about why we think Chinese grammar is so easy. What's number one?
Verbs. Let's talk about verbs first. In Chinese, there's no conjugation. So when I was learning English or Spanish, I was always struggling with conjugations, like the verbs, the change of verbs. But in Chinese, the verbs don't change.
Yeah, and that's like when you're learning Spanish and you have like 30, 40, 50 plus ways of saying one verb.
Crazy.
It's really disheartening and it stops you from speaking. Like my Spanish is very broken because I never took the time to really sit down and memorize all of those verbs. And I mean, that's partially my fault. I was a bad student. But the thing with Chinese is that once you learn one verb, you can talk about any time, the past, present, future. I mean, there's no, like you said, there's no conjugations. It's not going to change. The verb stays the same. So that really helps speed up your speaking process because you're not thinking, oh, is it hablamos?
Yeah.
Is it habla? Is it you, we, us, they? You know, there's so many different ways in other languages. So verb, no conjugations, super easy. All right, that's number one. What's number two?
Number two, tense. There's no tense in Chinese. Past, present, future, we don't have that in Chinese.
Yeah, like in English, a lot of English speakers or English learners have difficulties. Like, oh, is it past tense? Is it present tense? Is it future tense? Is it conditional? There's all these tenses, right? And
Yeah.
it gets, again, that's like a block
Yeah.
to get you speaking.
And the thing is, you need to, again, conjugate. Like you need to conjugate the verbs. Change the past. You need to memorize the past tenses of the verbs. And future, like Spanish, the same. You know, it has like.
It has millions of ways to say the verb, right?
Well, it has like, it's not just past. It has simple past, and complete past. Like, yeah, it's very confusing.
Damn you, Spanish. Ugh.
But Chinese is easy. No tense.
Yeah, everything's based on context. So if you're going to say the past tense, you're going to say yesterday I did something, right? But
Yeah.
the verb is the same.
Yeah, you just add a time to the sentence. If you did something yesterday, you just say 昨天我去 blah blah blah. If you do it today, you say 今天我去 a place. And for the future, you just say 明天我去 tomorrow, you know,
Yeah.
to specify.
It's very
the time.
specific. Like, I know, oh, you're talking about what time you're talking about. Yeah. Let's move on to number three. So number three is that there are...
No articles.
Exactly.
No and the none.
As an English learner for you, what is difficult about articles?
I think I had to memorize countable nouns, uncountable nouns, when to use when to use and when to use the. Like, it was really confusing for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of exceptions too that confuse a lot of English learners. And thank the Lord, in Chinese, there's no articles. So it's very, very simple. And that kind of brings us to number four, which is there's no gender. All right, so you're not gonna, like in Spanish, in English, we don't really have gender for nouns, but in Spanish you have...
Yeah, in those European languages.
Okay,
Yeah.
like la cocina, la or el, right? And that kind of gets confusing. Which one, you got to remember, is it a feminine noun? Is it a masculine noun? At least for me, that's confusing in Spanish.
Yeah, and those exceptions, you have to memorize a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Chinese,
Easy.
easy, right? None of that.
书. Just 书.
Book. It's just a book, right? It's not going to change. Easy. Easy peasy. All right. Number 5 is that there are no plurals. All right. And you were talking about this a little bit earlier. Countable and uncountable nouns. All right. That's really difficult for a lot of English learners. Like, can I count this? How many fish? How many fruits? Is it fruit? Is it fruits? Is it, there's a lot of rules, a lot of exceptions as well. In Chinese, you're going to say specifically the number of items you're talking about. So you don't add an S. You're going to say, if you're going to say, give me some apples, you're either going to say, 给我一些苹果, or 给我两个苹果, like give me 2, or give me some. There is a word for some, and there's a word for a specific number word, right? Number 2.
Yeah. So basically, nouns don't change either. Yeah.
Verbs don't change, nouns don't change.
Right.
There's no change in Chinese. That's good. It stays the same. Simple.
Right.
And we have our last one, number 6, is a fixed sentence pattern. Can you tell us about that?
It's pretty much like English. It's subject, verb, object, and the order doesn't really change. For example,
我吃饭.
我吃苹果.
我去上海. Right.
我爱你.
Wow.
Yeah. So subject, verb, object. The orders don't change.
Yeah. Fixed. That's the meaning of fixed.
Right.
So these are the 6 reasons that we think Chinese grammar is one of the easiest grammar systems in the world. I'm actually curious about your thoughts. What about your language? What in your language makes it so difficult to learn? As someone, for me, who is a native English speaker, I never thought English was difficult until I started teaching it, and then hearing other people's experiences. So maybe you're not sure what's difficult in your language, or maybe you are sure, or maybe you learned a different language. What in that language is difficult? Let us know. Is there something in Chinese you're having difficulties with? Let us know what that is. So, see you guys next time.
下次见.